In this video, you'll see the solution to the practice exercise, Project Coordination. This exercise requires you to open an existing project and review the warnings in the model. You will then need to edit the model to resolve those issues and clear the warnings. You will then link a structural model to the project using shared coordinates and perform an interference check between the two models. You will then review the interferences and resolve any that can be resolved, and then rerun the interference check to clear them from the report. Let's start by opening the file Studio Block. And this is the architectural model of a studio project that we've been working on. To review the warnings, we'll go to the Manage Ribbon tab. And from the Inquiry panel, we can see the Warnings tool is active, so therefore warnings are contained within the project. And we'll choose this to review those warnings. We can see there's two types of warnings. The first one tells us that there are identical instances in the same place, and this will result in double counting in schedules. So I'll expand this out, and we can see that we have two instances of this. We'll expand warning 1 and warning 2 to see the objects. So it looks like the electric lift has been duplicated and also a piece of furniture. So we'll choose warning 1 and then select show to see that object. We'll choose close to the viewing elements message. And although it's zoomed to it in the 3D view, we can't actually see those, so we'll choose show again. And then say OK to open in a new view. And now on the second floor, we can see the electric lift here, and there's obviously two instances of those in the same place. So we choose warning 2 and choose show. And now we can see where the table sits, and then obviously there's two instances of those in the same place. So with this, it's quite easy to clear these. We can check one of the lifts and one of the tables. And now we'll choose delete checked, and those objects will be deleted and the warnings cleared. Going back to the Manage Ribbon tab on the Inquiry panel, we still have more warnings, so we'll choose this. We can see that the previous warning telling us about the duplicate objects has disappeared, but now we have one left, which will expand out. And this is letting us know that an insert conflicts with a joined wall. So once again, we'll expand this out, and there's a door and a wall that are conflicting with each other. So we'll choose warning 1 and choose show. We'll close to the viewing elements message. And once again, we'll choose show so that we can open a new view. And that's opened up the first floor plan, and we can see the door to the utility room is conflicting with the wall to the WC. So we'll need to move this door. So let's close the warnings box. We'll select the door and we'll move it across by 12 inches. So we choose move and then move it to the right by 1 foot. And we can see now that that's resolved that conflict between the wall and the door. We'll go back to the Manage Ribbon tab. From the Inquiry panel now, we can see that the Warnings tool is greyed out, and this indicates that there are no more warnings in this project. So now we'll link in the structural model, and we'll go back to the 3D view. And now from the Insert Ribbon tab on the Link panel, we'll choose Link Revit. And we'll select the Studio Block structure. We can change the positioning to Auto by Shared Coordinates. And then we'll choose Open, and this should insert this into the correct location. So looking at the 3D view, we can see the foundations in the view. And with those selected, that allows us to highlight the structure that's inside the building and also the columns at the back here as well. So we'll perform an interference check. From the Collaborate Ribbon tab, on the Coordinate panel, we'll choose Interference Check and then Run Interference Check. So we have two lists of categories. On the left, we'll choose from the current project. And we need to choose everything apart from the roof, as we know there will be a lot of interference between the roof and the structure, as we've modelled a structural zone in our roof to accommodate the insulation and finishes, and also the zone for the roof structure. So I'll choose roofs and then select invert to choose everything apart from the roofs, and we'll check those to check for interference. And then on the opposite side, rather than check from the current project, we'll choose the Studio Block structure linked model, and we'll check for the structural columns to be used in the interference between the rest of the objects here. So we'll choose OK to run the report, and we can see that we have some interference here. So the columns are interfering with some floors, furniture, railings, and also walls. So I'll select one of the interferences with the floors. And looking at the 3D view, we can see that this is the lower floor slab here, and the column that protrudes through that floor to the foundations below. And as the floor would be cast around those columns in real life, we won't actually model a hole in the floor to allow the columns to go through. So therefore this kind of interference is acceptable in the project and won't be resolved. I'll select one of the walls, and we can see now that the wall at the back is highlighted. So if I orbit around here, we see that those columns go through the wall into the foundations below. And this is a similar situation to the floors in that we won't actually model a hole in the wall to accommodate the columns. So therefore the interference with the walls and the floors between the columns is acceptable and will not be resolved. So therefore we'll concentrate on the interference between the furniture and the railings with the columns. We'll start by selecting the furniture interference here and then choosing show, and we'll choose show once more. And now looking at the first floor plan, we can see the piece of furniture, and zooming in we can see where it overlaps with the column. So we'll just need to move this table to one side in order to clear that interference. Now I'll select the interference with the railings and choose show, and then show once more. And now on the second floor we can see the railing here at the top of the stairs, and where it comes back to the wall we've not allowed for the column to be inserted there. So again we'll need to resolve this by editing the railing. So we'll close down the interference report, and we'll start with editing the railing as it's here. So we'll choose this, and then from the modify ribbon we'll choose to edit the path. And we can either stop the railing at the face of the column, or we can move the railing further in to go around the column. And we'll do this so that the railing does go back to the wall itself. We'll choose finish edit mode to create that railing, and then that should resolve that interference. Now we'll go to the first floor view and zooming into where the table was overlapping with the column. We can select this and we'll just move it to one side so that it sits in the middle of the columns here, and that will be acceptable in this instance. So to check that that's now fixed those, we'll go back to the interference check and choose to show the last report. And now we'll refresh this, and we can see that we're left with just the floors and the walls, which we know are acceptable and will not be resolved. So therefore we'll close this down, and that finishes the exercise and ends this video. And to recap, in this video we've seen a solution to the practice exercise project coordination that requires us to review warnings in a model and to resolve issues that can clear the warnings. We've also linked in a structural model using shared coordinates, performed an interference check between those, and resolved any interferences that we can, and rerun the check to clear them from the report.